All right, hello, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this special webinar titled 5 Secrets to Renting Your Properties Quicker and for More Money. I'm Sean McKay with American IRA, and today we have a special guest, Mr. William Orozco from View Realty Group. Will, thanks so much for joining us, buddy.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate it, man. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've known Will for quite a few years. I asked Will to come on and educate us on how to be more competent as especially rental property investors. Will's actually the manager for my properties for my wife and I. So he does a fantastic job. He's super knowledgeable. And so I thought he'd be a great resource to, again, educate us and give us some insights on that world. So as far as some notes for the webinar today, before I forget, there is a questions box. So for those of you that are listening to this live, definitely feel free to type into the questions box any questions you have. Realistically, we probably won't be able to see those until the end of the presentation, but certainly we'll delve into your questions. And as I said, Will's a great resource for that. So he'll be happy to stick around for a little bit after our presentation. In terms of the structure today, the way that this will flow is the first roughly 10 or 15 minutes, we'll talk about the self-directed retirement accounts, these IRAs and 401ks, and how they can be utilized not just with stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, but for other investments such as real estate. And then I'll turn it over to Will, who is, of course, the main event, and he'll educate us on this world of rental properties and how to be more competent with that. And then, as I said, we'll delve into the question and answers at the end of this. So again, appreciate everyone who's joining us, especially those of you that could make it to this live, and hopefully you get some value from this today. So as we delve into retirement accounts, I think certainly it's important for us to start with kind of what most of us are familiar with and what most of us are doing with our IRAs and 401ks currently. And so when you look at the landscape, certainly most of us are familiar with stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. And unfortunately, a lot of us are investing in these asset classes simply because we're unaware that there are other opportunities available to invest in with our IRAs and 401ks. And so ultimately, if nothing else, if you get out of this presentation today that you have other opportunities, that's a win for us, because ultimately with a self-directed retirement account, we're not trying to push you into any particular product or investment. We're just simply trying to bring awareness to the opportunities that are available so that ultimately you can invest in what you actually understand. And so that's really the key to our service. Not all of our clients invest in real estate. Not all of our clients invest in precious metals or the other topics and asset classes that we'll delve into. Really what we're trying to bring to you again is just an awareness. And as Warren Buffett says, risk comes from not knowing what you are doing. And unfortunately, many of us are not really that well-versed or sophisticated in stocks and mutual funds, but unfortunately, most of our wealth in our IRAs and 401ks are tied to those assets. So today might be kind of an aha moment for you. So when we talk about a self-directed account, to me, there are a couple of components we need to be familiar with as we delve into this world. The first is that, as the name indicates, a self-directed account is one in which you as the account holder are making the decisions for your retirement account. So this is a departure from working with an advisor who will do kind of a risk analysis and look at your goals and then suggest certain products for you to invest in, such as mutual funds, bonds, and things of that nature. So you are the captain of the ship, as we like to say. You are that decision maker for your IRA or 401k. Now, you're certainly going to probably lean on other investors or professionals in your asset class to assist you in different forms of analysis. But keeping in mind, at American IRA, we're never pushing you towards any specific investment. So if you're investing in real estate, certainly you may lean on people like Will to assist you in analyzing the value of the property in terms of the purchase, or the rental values, perhaps a little bit of guidance on what needs to be done in order to get certain values out of that property versus in terms of the sale or the rental of that property. So definitely lean on those professionals, but at American IRA, we're giving you a platform to make investments. The second concept is when you talk about a truly self-directed IRA or 401k, keep in mind you can still invest in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds with us, but the real benefit of our service is investing in what is considered alternative assets. So that can be real estate, that could be holding debt instruments such as mortgages or deeds of trust, investing in privately held companies, or investing in physical precious metals such as gold and silver. So a lot of different things can be accomplished. Now, at American IRA, we're considered a fully integrated, self-directed company, meaning that we have the same ownership group for the administration company, American IRA, as well as our parent trust company, New Vision Trust, which our principal is Jim Hitt, and our primary office, our headquarters, is in Asheville, North Carolina. I reside, invest, and work in Charlotte, North Carolina, which was our second office. And we've recently opened an Atlanta office as well. So we're very fortunate and grateful to have been growing. We've been around since 2004. And one of the great things about our team is that many of us have been with the firm for quite a number of years. I've been fortunate to be with this firm for 11 years now. And many of our senior staff members have been with us 8, 9, 10 years. So you're getting a lot of expertise. And also our fees are really, really unique in this space because we actually have set annual fees that are very low in comparison to other firms that charge you more money each year as your account balance grows. So our theory is, since we're not advising you on the investments to make, we shouldn't get to see the upside as your account goes from 50,000 to 100,000 to 200,000 and up. And also, as I mentioned earlier, we're also investors ourselves. So we're not just coming from a theoretical standpoint. My wife and I have been very fortunate to build a rental portfolio with the help of people like Will, great team around us to allow us to be able to kind of scale and to grow. So I think we bring a lot of value and expertise at American IRA. And so perhaps that'll be valuable for you. Now, when we talk about these self-directed accounts, ultimately, I think sometimes there's a bit of confusion that these self-directed accounts are completely different than the retirement account that you have currently. And that's actually not true. You have the same rules and regulations you have for a quote-unquote self-directed account as you do with any other brokerage or advisor account. So if you currently have a traditional or a rollover IRA with Wells Fargo, for example, and you decide to move even just a portion of that to us at American IRA, you'll technically still have a traditional IRA that you're establishing with our firm. Again, self-directed is really almost kind of a marketing term that our industry uses, but ultimately the fundamentals of that retirement account do not change. So you can have a self-directed Roth, traditional, SEP, simple, 401k, all of these products are available to you. And as I mentioned, this is not an all or nothing proposition. You may just simply decide to move a portion of your retirement account to diversify your portfolio. So all of your IRA or 401k is not tied to the stock market, for example. Now, when you look at the investment options for your portfolio, really the way the IRS code is written is it tells us what we cannot invest in, which is collectibles and life insurance policies. So this is by no means a complete list, but I think certainly one that is interesting to those of you that are currently investing in real estate or at least looking to invest in real estate. And of course, in this kind of discussion, we're thinking about doing this through a retirement account. So an IRA or 401k can actually directly own any type of physical real estate, everything from raw land to condos and townhouses, single family houses, industrial buildings, apartment complexes, commercial buildings. All of these types of physical real estate can be directly owned by your retirement account. Now, Certainly for larger deals such as apartment buildings, it may not be feasible for where you are in your investing career to just have your retirement account be the sole owner. And so many times we'll see, especially on larger deals, where clients will get together. Sometimes it's IRA money mixed with non-IRA money mixed with companies and just a group of individuals getting together in a syndication where the retirement account is one of perhaps many members of an LLC. So these retirement accounts and individuals and companies come together in one entity, and then that entity, that LLC, many times goes on to buy that apartment complex or the industrial building or perhaps even a single family house. So there are some tools available to you. The retirement account can also be the bank for other investors. Many times that's real estate investors. So ideally your money is secured by either a deed of trust or a mortgage, depending upon the state that you're investing in. So for those of you investing in North Carolina, for example, we're a deed of trust state. Conversely, over the border in South Carolina, that's a mortgage state. So that's the security instrument that ties your money to that property. If the borrower is unable to perform and you have to go through that process of actually foreclosing on the property, your retirement account can actually end up owning that asset. So there's a lot of different investment concepts available to us. Now, as we look at the strategies, really the way that I like to explain this is if you are making an investment with your retirement account, many times this can be done with your IRA or 401k. So it's very common for clients to just simply purchase rental properties, maybe do a fix and flip deal inside of their retirement account. Or if they're working an off-market deal where they're able to employ a little bit of creativity and structure a deal a little bit, they can do wholesales or options on properties through their retirement account as well. And joint ventures is really just another way of saying a partnering deal. So the IRA or 401k, as we mentioned, can just simply own a portion of an asset, whether it's the direct ownership of real estate or joint venturing on maybe being a lender to other investors. And then, of course, private lending. So the retirement account, again, being the bank for other investors so that they can do their rental properties or their fix and flips or, whatever that strategy is for that borrower. So I'm kind of a visual guy and I like to see how this process flows if a retirement account is going to be purchasing a property, for example. And so ultimately the IRA is many times going to be using its capital. So the IRA or 401k has X amount of money in the account, using that money to purchase the property. And because the IRA or 401k is the owner of the property, then all the income, whether it's rental income or capital that's accrued from the sale of the property, flows directly back to that retirement account as well. And so as you can imagine, with these being tax efficient vehicles, IRAs and 401ks, this is typically more advantageous actually than doing deals outside of your retirement accounts from a tax standpoint. There's a lot of different strategies that we cover on other webinars, but again, today is just a very fundamental discussion of these IRAs and 401ks, just to kind of give you a bit of flavor for what can actually be accomplished. So again, as I promised today, certainly the main event, the main attraction is our friend Will, who is going to be talking to us about how to be essentially better landlords and handle our rental properties better. And so, Will, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Okay, so I'm sliding over the screen to you. And again, this is William Orozco with View Realty. He is the principal of the firm, and we're very lucky to have him on. So, Will, go ahead and see if you can control the slides for me.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Sean. Thanks for the info. Very helpful. Really appreciate you having me here, man. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Definitely looking forward to this and shed a little bit of knowledge on kind of our experience on property management side of things here. So let me tell you first a little bit about me. I was born in Miami. Moved around a lot when we were young. We kind of relocated to South America, Colombia, where my family's from, and eventually ended up in Queens in New York before finally relocating here to Charlotte in 2007. right when we moved in here, guys, we, kind of got into real estate, my wife and I, and kind of sunk our teeth into property management with a firm we started working with. Obviously, '07 was when the market crashed, so it kind of taught us a few things to do when things get kind of rough out there on the real estate side of things. In 2015, we branched off and created New View. And thanks to a great team that we have in place, we've kind of grown to 900 properties between single family and multifamily. And we continue to try to just bring value to all our investors. So basically, that's where we are. So let me jump into some of what topics we'll be discussing today. We're going to go over things that we implement here that we've learned over the years on how to save our investors, what amounts to be thousands of dollars, basically, by implementing certain things that can amount to about $1 per day or so. We'll also tap into some of the screening keys that we use to kind of filter out some of the bad tenants and try to secure those good tenants. The keys to a successful eviction process. We'll go over some of the differences and benefits to face-to-face showings versus self-showings that a lot of people are doing nowadays. And also, a big question a lot of investors ask me is, kind of what are the pros and cons between self-managing and hiring a professional property management company. So we'll tap into all of that, and hopefully that will bring some value to you guys, and you guys can, ask some questions towards the end. The first thing is how to save thousands of dollars for about $1 per day. And I think that this is a very big component of what we offer. We just recently implemented this year, and I think it's something that all property management companies should do, and that is preventive maintenance inspections. And this is huge. A lot of companies, they'll go out, they'll take some pictures and all that, and that's nice, but I think you need to do a full-blown inspection of the property. You can get things like unreported maintenance repairs. You may have a small leak that, can be basically taken care of with an $80 service call and a $20 part. And we've seen it where the small leak now turns into subfloor joist repairs, and it becomes a $2,000 repair. So these are the ways that you can kind of, save money on that front. Another way is, when you get eyes on the property and you go in and you kind of do a full-blown inspection, you can take a look at, one, if there's any unauthorized pets. And that's a big one. You go into some properties sometimes, guys, and you will have, 2 or 3 dogs. Your floors are completely trashed. Walls need to be replaced, and it's just uninhabitable. And the same thing goes with occupants. Unfortunately, you go to a, 1 or 2 bedroom house and you got, 12 people living there. There's a lot of extra wear and tear in this property, right? And that can fall inside with leaks, toilets, plumbing usage, all of that. So these are ways you can kind of narrow that down and kind of nip that in the bud, if you will, sooner rather than later. And then hand in hand with that is kind of the HVAC service and maintenance. Obviously, most people have their tenants replace air filters, which, they should do. Unfortunately, not all do. They just don't. And a simple air filter replacement, that's, a filter can be $4 or $5, and it'll take you, whatever time it takes you to go pick it up and go install it, can turn into a $4,000 replacement of the HVAC unit. So these are the type of things that we have kind of bumped into where we can try to bring value to our clients and save them money and try to educate our tenants on how to, try to take care of that up front. But that's a big thing for us when it comes to the preventive maintenance. And I think it'll be very helpful for, most investors, but that's something that we offer to all of our properties. We do 1 inspection per year at $99. And then obviously we have different packages that include different things, but definitely something that whether you have a property management company that's doing it, or if you're doing it yourself, that is something that you guys should, take care of as well. So here we go. Let's go on to the next topic here, which is okay. So here we go. So this tenant screening, which is obviously critical. Okay, I always look at screening for your tenants as kind of an art, if you will. All right. We do a lot of different things that I think can help you guys in trying to select that perfect tenant. right? One is we use a third-party company to do most of the legwork. They do our credit check, they do our eviction check, criminal background check. They check for previous landlords to make sure that the person that they're portraying to be a landlord actually owns the property. And this helps us to be in compliance with all the fair housing rules and regulations. So we want to make sure we abide by all of that. So we hire this company, and that helps us out a lot. But then aside from that, once we get all those documentation back, we take it an extra step, and we do two things that really help us kind of filter out some of the bad tenants. And one is we cross-reference the previous landlords, right? Once we get notification that the owner has checked out, we actually call that landlord, and we do what is we call basically to ensure that this landlord is actually the landlord, because they'll put family members, cousins, and friends to take the call for them. So one of the things we do is we ask that landlord, let's say the tenant says their rent is $1,000 a month, all right? So when we call this landlord, we tell them, listen, yes, we know this tenant has lived with you there. They said their rent is $1,600 a month. Is that correct? So we'll come with some astronomical number that's different than what they told us, and a landlord will kind of pick that up right away. They'll let us know, listen, you know what? No, the rent's not $1,600, it's $1,000. So that's one way to kind of get that's a true landlord giving us a verification. If it's a friend or somebody that's a fake landlord, they probably won't remember what they told them, and they'll go along with it. They'll say, oh, yeah, $1,600, that sounds about right. So that's one of the ways. Another way is pets. We tell them, yeah, they said they have 3 pets. Is that correct? And again, we'll just kind of probe to see what we get, because that's a big one. We want to make sure that we're cross-referencing these landlords, that they're giving us the accurate information to make sure we have a good tenant for the long haul. And then one of the other components that we use, and we do this only when we have somebody that's here locally, and there may be, kind of we're against the fence whether we should approve them or not. And that's if we do in-home visits to their current property. And this has helped us a great deal, because sometimes you got to look past credit and past what's on paper. And if we see somebody we're against the fence of making a decision and they live here locally, we'll request an in-home visit. And I mean, when you go to somebody's house, you can kind of tell, right? If their house is nice and tidy and looking clean, more than likely that's how they're going to keep their next house. And that's the tenant we want. On the other side of that, though, I mean, you may go to somebody's house and it's in shambles, holes everywhere, dirty, and I don't care how good that credit may be, that's somebody we don't want. So this is some of the ways we filter out some of these problem tenants, if you will. So we're going to be discussing here, and the slide will catch up to us here shortly, guys, but we're going to be discussing the keys to a successful eviction process. And this is obviously something that's a big one, especially in today's atmosphere. You have a lot of legal aids trying to represent these tenants that, even though they don't pay their rent, for some reason they try to find a loophole and try to find a way where these tenants don't have to pay the rent. So you have to have your game in order when it comes to going to court. And that's kind of where we come in. The number one thing is you got to have a lease, first of all, right? Some folks, for some reason, they do verbal agreements and they make it work that way, but that's definitely a big no-no. You definitely got to have a lease, and more importantly, you got to have a strong lease. You got to have a strong lease that handles a few different addendums, such as bed bugs. If you get a bed bug infestation, you knew when you gave that property in there was no bed bugs there. All of a sudden, now the landlord's going to be responsible for treating that, and that gets expensive. So we want to make sure we have a clause in those leases that tackles that and that holds the tenant responsible for that. Same thing goes with crime, drug use. All of these things are part of your lease and your addendums. Another thing is the repairs. Okay, repairs need to be taken care of in a timely manner, because these legal aids and tenants, although magistrates are not really supposed to really entertain that when somebody's behind on their rent, unfortunately they do. So the best thing to do is make sure that the repairs and the maintenance are taken care of in a timely manner, that one, they're documented, right, to make sure that you upload all your invoices. When you go to court, bring your leases, your addendums, pictures of the repairs that you've done over the last 3 months, and any invoices you have, because this will avoid you going to court and then the magistrate kind of doing what they want, and then all of a sudden you lose a case there. You have somebody living for free for 6 months. So that's definitely important. And obviously your accounting. You want to have a strong software accounting to avoid any mistakes on late fees, any charges. Like I said, with these legal aids, not even just a mistake on a late fee. If you by mistake charge 6%, they'll get you for a lot of different things, but they're entitled to X amount of dollars. So you want to make sure that you keep your lease, your process, your accounting airtight to make sure that you win those cases and get these non-paying tenants out as quickly as possible. So we'll be going into face-to-face showings versus self-showings. And I mean, we have never done self-showings. I know a lot of companies out there doing it now, and they kind of put an automatic lock boxes, sort of like the realtors have for MLS. And I'm sure they may have some degree of success with that and kind of minimize costs and drive time, labor, and gas, and so forth. But to me, I think that that's not the way to go. To me, face-to-face showings are critical. This is where we begin, actually screening your tenant, right from the very first meeting, when they look at that property. So I think that's important to get that, get that communication, the rapport right from day one. It also protects the investor's properties. I mean, bottom line is, if somebody goes in there, they don't care if they leave all your lights on. Okay, they put the AC or the heat at a ridiculous temperature. They may leave water running if they go wash their hands. You may go back in there, you have no refrigerator and stove. So you just don't know what you're going to get with that. So I think the face-to-face showings helps you in screening your tenant, helps you protect the property itself and maintain it and keep costs down for the investor. And then also, it basically gives you the ability to sell the tenant on things that they don't know about. I mean, here in Charlotte, as well, I'm sure most of you folks know, we're getting a lot of people that are relocating from other states. If they go look at a property that they may like, but they're against the fence, you're there. You can tell them what's around in the neighborhood, what kind of restaurants they have, how the schools are, how quickly or how far it is to travel to wherever their location may be. So these are the type of things that I think brings a lot of value in doing face-to-face showings. As we move on, we're going to be going into the self-managing versus hiring a professional property manager. And I get this question a lot from various investors and even people that are going into the property management. And even though I think, kind of me being a property manager, it does a disservice to us. But in my opinion, I really believe if you're going to get into, owning real estate and building a portfolio, I really believe you should kind of sink your teeth into managing your first one or two for a number of reasons. One is you get a first-hand to know exactly what it entails to manage these properties. You start getting familiar with your own properties to know some of the things that you may have to relate to or repair, maintenance, or your property manager. So I think it's very important to do that, to try to find out what it takes and kind of learn to appreciate what it entails to get that done. But the bottom line is, if your job is to grow that portfolio, I do think you need to hire a professional company. I think that in order for you to scale and grow your business, you got to dedicate your time to where it should be, which is growing your portfolio. And then you can let, somebody else, a professional, handle some of the day-to-day stuff that needs to be taken care of. So I think that's definitely a thing everybody should do to manage their own properties, but there comes a point where you just got to, kind of let that go and hire a property management company to do that for you. So I think that's pretty much some of the information that I have for you guys. I hope this, kind of gives you a little light on what it entails to manage a property and give you some helpful information. And obviously, Sean, if you have any questions, I'll stay here, hang on to answer any questions.
Perfect. That was great stuff, Will. I appreciate that. And I kind of echo Will's last point there about the self-managing to start, so you kind of understand some of the nuance of owning a rental property. And then, as Will mentioned, we all have different tolerances, I guess you could say, but at a certain point, you probably want to bring on a third-party firm so that they can handle that day-to-day stuff. So that, as Will said, you can either grow your portfolio or maybe just have more time for projects that are more interesting to you or whatever the case may be. So great stuff there, Will, and we definitely have some questions already. So thanks for those insights. And so for those of you who are interested in at least engaging in discussions or learning more about the self-directed concept, I'll certainly have the contact information on the next slide, but just please understand, if nothing else, if you are interested in moving forward with making an investment with an IRA or 401k to purchase a property, to lend money, whatever the case may be, please keep in mind that there is definitely a format to be successful with this. And before you go out there looking for deals, please make sure that you open and fund your self-directed account prior to any sort of activity. Then once the account is open and funded, you can then go out there looking for the rental property, for example, that you're interested in purchasing with your Roth IRA or your traditional IRA. And at that point of identification, definitely reach out to us so that we can assist you with the paperwork to make that purchase. We're involved in the very beginning with that offer to purchase all the way through to that closing with either in North Carolina, the closing attorney, in other states, escrow offices, etc., that do those real estate closings. And then ultimately the end result is that your IRA or 401k actually owns the property. So as we mentioned earlier, it gets all the income, and conversely, it pays the expenses. So that's something to just kind of keep in mind as you're thinking about this process. So again, I am Sean McKay with American IRA. Feel free to email me directly, Sean, SEAN, at AmericanIRA.com. And our website is AmericanIRA.com. And the headquarters in Asheville, that number is 828-257-4949. Also, feel free to reach me on my cell phone. That's the easiest way to contact me directly. And that number is 828-231-3627. And again, the main event today, Mr. Will Orozco, Principal CEO at New View Realty Group. It's William at newviewrg for realtygroup.com. Their website is newviewrealtygroup.com. They have a nice platform there. You can sign in as a landlord and just check the status of what's happening with your properties and what have you. So nice clean platform there with good accounting. The office is 704-323-6031. And Will's a brave man. He's putting his cell phone out there. And so that's 704-906-5308. And just keep in mind the 10th, 11th, and 12th. Will and the team are working hard to get those statements put together and get us all paid. So just try to be kind with Will's time. I know I try to be. Maybe he doesn't always agree that I'm trying to be, but I do try to. But he's great. He also acts as our realtor on transactions if we're buying new properties or if we're selling an existing property. So they're a full service group, and they do a great job. Great team behind Will and Sarah. So great. We'll get into it, Will. I presume these will largely be for you. So Will, the first question is, do you recommend any particular software?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of biased. I use Buildium. That's the one I've used, for a long time. I've actually requested several different features to be implemented, and they have done that for us. Another big one out there that I looked into is Appfolio. But again, I'm with Buildium, and I have no complaints about them.
Okay, terrific. Next question is, does NewView operate in other cities like Atlanta?
Sorry, can you repeat that again, Sean? You're breaking up on me.
Oh, sorry. So does NewView operate in other cities like Atlanta?
Not right now, no. Right now, we basically have North and South Carolina.
Okay, great. Next one is, Will, what are your fees for property management?
We charge 10% for management, and we do have a tenant placement fee, which is to advertise, screen, secure the tenant, and that's 50% of the first month's rent or $500, whichever is greater.
Okay, great. Will, who do you use for credit checks?
We use a great company. The company is Resident Research, and I've been with them for many years. And again, they do a lot of the legwork for us that we just don't have the time and don't care to do. But once we have that information, we go the extra couple of steps that I mentioned earlier, but they're a great company.
Okay, terrific. And does your firm use the state lease documents?
Yes, we use the North Carolina Real Estate Lease Agreement that's approved by the commission, and then we have addendums that have been drafted by a real estate attorney.
Okay, terrific. And that's obviously key as well. You don't want to get cute with addendums and have that get caught in court. So well done there. This is a fun one. Have you ever had a squatter? And if so, what did you do, Will?
Yes, unfortunately, I think I've encountered almost every scenario. But yes, we've had a squatter, and unfortunately for the landlord, just the laws protect some of these folks, and we actually had to go through a full eviction process, even though this person didn't have a lease, even though we didn't know who this person was or their name. We had to file the eviction as a John Doe and wait the same amount of time that we had to wait with any other tenant that we had, because I've encountered that and we had to get them out.
There's actually a pretty sophisticated investor in town that has not been able to get squatters out of a property for over a year. So just going through the typical eviction process actually doesn't sound too rough when compared to other situations. So, okay, interesting.
Well, yes.
So, Will, how aggressive are you on evictions as far as time they have not paid rent?
Well, we are pretty aggressive with that, and that's kind of one of the things my landlords like. Rents are due on the first of the month. We give everybody a 5-day grace period, right? So they have until the 5th to get it in. If they don't, we're able to begin eviction proceedings on the 6th. Now, obviously, our goal is to get that rent in. So we begin our entire process for collections, which is we email, we text, sometimes we threaten if we have to. So we go through by any means necessary to try to get that money in before we file that eviction. But we begin our evictions between the 10th to the 12th of each month.
Okay, terrific. And this is kind of a add-on, I guess, to the how aggressive are you comment or question. It said, I paid someone $500 to get out in that circumstance. So, Will, I guess the question would be, do you ever have landlords that propose that scenario to you to communicate to tenants?
Yes, we have, and we've had various degrees of success with that. It's worked in a couple of times, and sometimes it is less expensive, to get them out, and offer the money to leave. Mm-hmm. For the most part, we've only done that a handful of times, maybe, and again, we have success with that on those particular instances. But we file evictions, just to give everybody a kind of a broad picture of it. We file maybe 35 to 50 evictions per month between 4 different counties, and for the most part, out of those 45, 50 odd evictions, I say probably about 90 to 95% of them come in to pay. So they get caught up, they pay the eviction fee, and and then we start again next month. And we do a padlock on an average of 3 to 5 units per month between all the properties that we manage.
And padlock is, of course, that's you've had to go through that full eviction process. Those tenants will not be living in the property after that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Um, so it looks like this might be the last one. Do you raise the rents each year with a lease renewal, and what percentage?
That's a great question. And basically the answer to that is it varies.
Hmm.
Right? And it varies because we cater to our clients, our investors. So we kind of work with them on finding out what's the best strategic increase we want. We have some investors, which Sean, you and I know, and they don't want to do increases, right? Right? They want to make sure that the property stays rented. And a lot of times, right, when you have a tenant that's paying, say, $800 a month for a property that's, could be rented for, 1,000, they may stay there 5 years paying $100 a month, right? Where you have no turnover. Now, you raise that rent to even 900. Now, what happens is you lose that tenant, right? That tenant moves out because he's got to go find something else. Now you got to spend whatever it is, $4,000 or $5,000 to get that property ready. You got to pay us, 50% of the first month rent when it gets rented. You're going to have no income for about a month or so while it gets renovated and we locate a tenant. So when you average all that out, I think, you don't want to be so aggressive on the rents when you don't have to. So to answer that question, we obviously recommend minimal increases, anywhere between, sometimes $5 to $15 for good tenants. But we do have some owners that say, you know what, this tenant's paying $600, I could get $850. I don't care if I got to renovate the unit. I want market rent, and then that's kind of what we do. So it's on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And okay, so looks like we have one more. Will, where do you go to see the market for your area as far as setting rent? So what sort of, I guess, comp system, if you will, do you use for coming up with some values there?
Yeah, well, that's a good question too. I mean, a lot of it, to be frank, here in Charlotte, we have so many properties that are spread out. We kind of have a pulse on what properties should rent for. But every now and again, we get somewhere in a neighborhood we don't have something in. So I rely on what, most people rely on. I mean, we obviously have access to the MLS, so we're going to the MLS. We also use Rental Meter, so we have a subscription with them. We go into Zillow. So we use a combination of that, and then we'll look at some of the properties we have that are close by there. And based on all of that and the condition of the house really is what's going to determine exactly where we land. We have something with granite or supposed to, something with just laminate, then it's going to impact what we recommend the owner to list it at.
No, that makes sense. And I can certainly speak to my experience with Will, being that he's very knowledgeable. We'll talk about a street where I'm looking at a deal, and many times he has other properties on the street. And, as we're either turning a property or purchasing the property, you do a nice job, Will, of actually giving kind of, I think, a conservative number. You don't promise the moon, and then we get disappointed because we end up renting it for less. So you're good with your numbers. Mm-hmm. And then also there's kind of a nice conversation in terms of, as Will mentioned, you can go really high end with, really blowing out the house and putting granite in, and maybe you're going to get an extra, 100, 200 a month, whatever the case may be. Or you can freshen it up, make it nice, paint, carpet, whatever the case may be, whatever appliances are needed, and then you're going to be at X for the rent. So I do find Will and his team to be quite knowledgeable about, what you're going to be looking at. Really that's what you're kind of paying for, an aspect of expertise, and then obviously that the day-to-day activity. I actually just got a notification during this webinar. Will's team sent me an update on a repair on a property, so they do have good systems in place, and we appreciate what they do for us. So don't want to hold Will up anymore. Will, if you have any parting words, great information today. Thank you for sharing. Any final thoughts?
Well, I just really appreciate the opportunity. I hope that can, shed some light on some of the folks that are looking to dabble into some of the real estate and the, property management side of things. I think it's obviously a great market to be in, and definitely appreciate the opportunity, Sean.
Yeah, thank you so much, Will. Really good information. You're certainly a pro, and he knows his stuff. So for those of you that are in kind of the Charlotte metro area, and as Will said, they work some of the outlying counties as well, and over the border in South Carolina. Definitely worth a conversation with Will to see if it's a good fit for everybody. But hopefully, you guys feel like you got some value today. Certainly, feel free to contact us with your particular questions or scenarios, and we'll certainly be happy to assist you there. And if you have any ideas for additional content that we can bring to you, again, Will is a great resource, but it doesn't always have to be so directly connected to a self-directed IRA strategy or something like that. We're just looking to bring overall value adds. Definitely feel free to shoot me an email or call me if you have ideas for content. So thank you all so much for listening today. Really appreciate the questions and the attention, and for carving out some time in what I'm sure is a busy schedule. And we'll see you soon. Thanks so much. Have a great day.